I enjoy the budget simulator, I think it's kind of interesting, but I have a lot of questions just about like how it was created, and kind of my entry point for this question is I noticed this year, which I think is different from previous years, is that we have a smaller range of services that we're allowed to
Right.
play with, and the range for all those services isn't the same.
No,
So,
it's not.
for parks, we can move plus or minus 10% for all the other ones, but for public safety, we can only move plus or minus 2%.
Right.
And that really
Yeah.
like, so, I mean, just
Yeah, yeah.
to,
Yeah,
like,
no.
it feels like, that a lot of the meaning-making of this activity is actually like constricted, because our choice for like, say, for instance, modifying police budget is 2 million or a range of 2 million out of 100 million, right? And so like, that's not really, that doesn't feel very like empowering in terms of being able to make some kind of strategic choice about the budget. So I just was curious, like, and maybe you don't know this, but like what went into deciding what services we were, going to be presented with, and then also like, why is there a difference between the
Right.
amount that we're able to play with in parks versus police?
Right, so this is the third time we've done the simulator. We did it in 2019 and then also in 2020. In 2019, we had about 40 services, and then we have about the same number of services this year as we had in 2020. What we noticed in 2019 is a lot of people abandoned their budgets before they finished them, just because there were so many services that were being offered. Just the complexity was a lot. The reason why we changed from 2020 to it was kind of an experiment from 2020 to 2022. There's 3 sliders where you can increase or decrease 5 or 10%, and then there's a one where you can increase or decrease 1 or 2%, and that is public safety, which you had mentioned. The reason why the simulator allows us to set it up in that way, we did it that way just because what was happening before is that if people, it wasn't presenting, it was making it really difficult in some cases for people to balance
You
budgets.
you wouldn't be able to balance it.
Or
You have to extend your percentages. It becomes a math problem at that point.
right, so
Because you kept
Because the percentage cut in a public safety is so much of a bigger percentage of cut than your
okay.
percentage of cuts in other departments becomes so much bigger, so then you have to expand that
Because
to
of the
balance your budget.
yeah, I think
Right.
I
So we
don't
couldn't
think
make
it's.
that like,
So it just becomes
Cash.
a pool.
we
Yeah,
couldn't
I don't
turn
think
that
it's a
into-
matter of a values judgment on one thing or another, it's just a matter
No,
of
just
making
the
a
actual
tool
budget, the budget
easier
that they
to
live
use.
in at the time, right now with public safety is so
Sure.
big that a percent change in public safety
Sure.
is a vast percent change in other
Then
departments.
wouldn't it make more sense to do it, because you certainly don't have to do it in percentages, you could do it in dollar amounts.
Yeah, so one of the reasons, in 2019, when I had the challenge of setting up a budget simulator, I demoed a number of different sites. And the reason why I picked this one is if you log on, you'll notice what I tried to do with a mouse is actually a lot easier on your phone because you can move the slider right and left on your phone. As opposed to some of the other tools, you would have to type in numbers. They lend themselves well to like a PC or a laptop, but not to a phone. And recognizing that there's a digital divide and a lot of people don't have computers in their homes anymore, but a lot of people do have phones or tablets and access to Wi-Fi, and so that's why we selected this option.
Thank you for clarifying that. It also occurs to me that people probably don't think very well in percentages, because I think that's not a very intuitive thing. I thought maybe
When I live in-
that was the case. Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
no, but then, and so then my just larger question is like, with this, we have like a $250 million budget. This budget simulator gives us less than $10 million of budget to play with total. I just don't see a lot of value
Right.
being presented from this, because there's actually like no choices that we're
Right.
being empowered to make with
But
this,
the
right?
funny thing about the 10 million is if you go back to the slide about the budget deficits that are projected for 25 or 26, it is 10 million. like, that's a pretty typical, like, when we're out of balance, we're generally not out of balance by much more than that.
So it's a,
I mean, it's just the way it happens. I mean, I have worked in the budget office for 15 years now. It's a long life and budget years. But typically going in, we've not had, like, I think 2020 was our worst year that we had to do a mid-year revision. But that kind of a swing is probably, I mean, I suppose you could build a budget from the bottom up, right? But typically we start from what we have and we modify that.
So is it safe to assume, to the point of, is 10 million sort of your annual pot, if you will, of new initiatives or shortcomings, yes, that you sort of have to deal with on an annual basis, where you do have a plus or minus
Right.
to
Yeah.
kind of have to
Yeah.
work within.
Yeah, we don't usually have a plus. So,
You always spend more.
well, no, our revenues grow slower than our expenditures. So our expenditure budget tends to outpace our revenue budget growth. It's just been typical. It's always, we always balance the current year and we balance next year's budget, but then we usually start running, 2 million deficit next year and so forth. This budget, this simulator setup is based on the 22 adopted budget. It is balanced. But
And there's also departments that aren't represented. So, I mean, I pick on them, they're here, so,
transit.
transit's not in
Yeah,
there.
transit's not in.
Planning's not in there,
None of
right?
it.
So,
They're not, yeah, they receive subsidies from the general fund, but they're not general fund departments.
I guess,
So there's no water, sewer either. People are like, I've always wanted to cut the water budget. It's like, ah.
No.
please no.
No.
Well, I mean,
So,
maybe the thing then is like, I think the perception that I've seen online and that I've had myself too, is that it's a budget simulator. But it like isn't necessarily a budget simulator at all. It's like
It's a budget balance.
it's a budget balancer simulator. I mean, I think there's a communication. Not all of them are there, too. I mean, I think as a dashboard, I understand what I understand the need for like, and the desire to present like transparency and engagement. I think this falls short on a number of levels in terms of actually providing people some kind of platform for having an empowered choice, or like some sort of like real input. Because I'm not entirely sure what meaningful inputs I could provide at this point that like says some kind of thing about what I feel about the budget, right?
Yeah.
With these.
yeah, I think when we did it in 19 and 20, I can tell you that the data from those 2 years was very different. And especially particularly when we aggregate the data with different, all the different people who've completed budgets, I think that themes definitely emerge. Like, so I think that, I guess I'm not invalidating your feeling that the simulator isn't meaningful, but I think that as staff, it has provided meaningful feedback. And as we look forward to 2025 and 26, it's a good starting place to start those conversations to see what people say. And there's some people who write in the comments, I wish I could cut this entire thing, or I wish I could double this entire thing, like in the comments, so this is not enough, right?
I was gonna say, its most useful purpose then is really for people to kind of engage and realize it costs money to live in a decent society. Sometimes people forget that, and that these things are
Most
expensive.
things are a trade-off at some point.
Yes, and it's all a lot
But
of
yeah,
trade-offs.
it's
Well,
complex.
and I think that's it, is that and it's forced, to the point. What you have as you add budget and the positive results of adding budget, and then the results of taking budget away that you guys have presented in there, the qualitative aspects of that is very, I think that's meaningful, because it does show you, anyone that's had to put together a multi-million-dollar budget, those are hard choices that you have to make, and so things go away, people go away, things go away. What are those? Somebody has to make those tough decisions as you do that, and by having at least the context of what those look like, I think that's meaningful.
So, and another, you know, if you wanna take the conversation farther, there is, a topic on forum right now too. Where a few people are starting to go from the simulator there to have a conversation as well, so.
Do you guys have a QR code for
No,
this?
I've not done a QR.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's good.
I come to these meetings and I get so many ideas. So sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, but that's a good idea. It's also, if you go to wichita.gov, it's on the banner.
Oh, okay.
Make sure it's
Okay,
on the
great, that's
banner
helpful.
there.
Because it can be overwhelming, the website.
Yeah, no,
You
it's
don't know
like
where
a
to
lot of typing. It's okay on a computer, but hard on a cell phone. Anything else? Go ahead.
So, I don't know whether the Community Engagement Academy is still active, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You've been there?
oh yeah,
You know what a gut wrench it is when they sit you down and say, here's your budget, you got an hour to straighten it
I
out.
love it, I'll do it every day.
So if you really want to understand more about how the budget works and what the simulator can provide, sign up for a CEA series of classes, and you'll spend almost a whole night on it, where finance walks you through that and helps you understand the intricacies and the delicate tightrope of trying to get those numbers to balance out so that you don't face into a financial quagmire.
I will
It's
second
a
that.
hair puller.
That was an illuminating class.
Illuminating, yeah, I like that.
Okay.
You guys sound prepped for 2025, so that's good.
Any more questions? Okay.
Okay, and I think any tools are useful, I think this is very useful because this is the way a lot of people think. Everybody has their own learning style. Unfortunately, some of us think a different way or want different pieces of information in order to engage in that. And I think some of the questions that I have really might even apply more towards 2020 future. Okay, so I have trouble using this system because I have other questions in the back of my mind that I have tried to get answers to, and I thought, oh, when I found out you were gonna be here tonight, you're up, it's all yours. So I kind of have three basic things, and if you could kind of just direct me somewhere or maybe give some broad ideas. I might have missed the slide about how much of our money comes in from franchise fees.
Right, I just presented on the expenditure budget. There is information, that is in the slide deck that's on the website from the city council retreat.
Okay, so there is a substantial, I would call a substantial portion of our budget is derived from franchise fees. I don't remember the split.
Yeah,
but-
it's our second largest source of revenue.
Okay, so with that in mind, this kind of derives down to three different questions based on that. One is that right now the city, we're all citizens, so we are all collecting this from ourselves on our behalf. A little over 6% of our gas bill goes to franchise fees to pay for the use of the right-of-way in the city. With the cold snap that occurred a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, with that, there has been a decision made by KCC, an agreement made by KCC, that each household will pay somewhere on an average between like $5 and $11 a year extra for cost recovery, anywhere from $5 to $10. Well, if I take middle of the road of how much per month times middle of the road on years, I come up with about $72 a year per family or per household over 7 years, which is $500 a household. The website and the city has told me we have about 150,000 households, which then comes back to, over the next 7 years or so, we'll be paying $75 million in extra money for that cold snap, which then will result in 6% of that will be about $4.5 million kind of extra money coming into the city that we would never have anticipated because of the cold snap. It's almost, we're still paying for that cold snap for a long, long time. So what I'm thinking is that extra $4.5 million that we're expecting over to come in, maybe more, maybe less, to come in over the next number of years is really kind of like a one-time windfall that it's gonna go away at the end of 5 to 7 years. But in the meantime, it's like a one-time I don't like the word windfall, but an unexpected income from the franchise fees that we would have originally expected. So here's my thought, is that there's also a court order, but there's also a court case that may repeal that. So any money we collect, franchise fees, may well have to be paid back to somebody. So that maybe, I'm just wondering if we've had any thought yet about either taking that extra money, putting it aside until we know that it is the city's to spend, or if that money that is coming in because of the weather hardship we all experienced and the additional costs to us based on that could maybe be funneled to a different purpose, utility assistance, into our housing initiative, into something that relates back to housing and provisioning. Or if we find another one-time expenditure to funnel that to, kind of like the money that we're getting now with, the federal money that's coming in. And I can't find a way to take those thoughts and apply it anyway into the budget simulator, which I get, but that's just how I think. So, I mean, I'm thinking that over the next 5 years, there's at least an extra $4.5 million coming that direction. The other thing, two things, and I'll try to speed these up. The water department collects 0.01% of our water bill to go to rate reduction assistance. And I realize that that's not a big trigger item on there to put on the slide, but when I research and look, I can't figure out how much money has been collected or where that money is going, or maybe if there's more money there that we could be giving out. And I know that that's a pretty tiny detail on a budget, but, we're talking, pardon me?
A lot of money.
I think it might be adding up, and I'm sure it's been given out, but I just can't see where it's gone, and I would like those kinds of, I'd like the ability to weigh in at some point ahead of time, ahead of a council meeting, where it's already been written up and presented, and if you catch the agenda, and you can go down. If there's some way to weigh into some of those assistance things, or even just to find out the details of how much money's been collected and how much has been spent, because it's very hard to do through the city council minutes, because I've tried for probably 8 months to figure
Leslie,
it out.
I'll follow up with her and try to get some of the answers to those questions, because,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're done then, we're skipping them. Do you want me to? Just because the other one has to do with park department and that 1%. I mean, if we're talking about giving up something on park, what was the slide? If we give up trees, then if we get more trees, we give up a police officer. I don't remember.
It
I may be
depends on
retarded.
what you would choose. I mean, just briefly as a wrap up, the simulators focused on the expenditure budget, so there's no discussion of revenues in the simulator. It goes back to
Well, and I
making
guess-
this an exercise that people can finish, right? And so, when it comes to franchise fees, I can assure you that we have recently reforecasted franchise fees due to volatility in energy prices. We've also reforecasted our own expenditure consumption costs for the city of Wichita for natural gas as well. With regards to the water program, I can check into that and follow up with a council member on the water program, so how that's accounted for, so I can provide that information.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions for me? If you've got anything, just send it to Anna. Anna and I can figure it out. So, thanks so much for your time. We really I really do, we really do appreciate it. So, thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just looking up to the next numbers.
Okay, yeah, Brett will to give the overall presentation. I'm Paul Gunzelman, I'm the Assistant City Engineer. I'll give a quick review of this project, then I'll turn it over to Brett. We'll be presenting on the Wichita Multimodal Facility. The City of Wichita had received Federal Transit Authority grant in 2019 for about $14.2 million for the facility. We had $5 million of general obligation funds programmed in the CIP for the facility as well. That brings the total up to $19.23 million. The Trans Systems has been, we put them under contract in about, let's see, 2021, in May of 2021. They have worked with Wichita Transit, with the FTA, and we have gone back and forth a little bit, working on the programmatic elements of the facility. And the project will include 12 bus bays, offices for transit ticketing and operations staff, public and staff restrooms, and it will also have a parking structure attached to it that the last officer spoke about, and that will have about 400 spaces in that parking garage. We'll also have space for bicycle and scooter rentals, as well as long-term bicycle lockers. And we are at 30% plans at this time. We have presented this to various boards, Wichita Bike Ped Advisory Board. We've been to Delano United, Delano Business Association, District 4 Advisory Board, and we went to Design Council earlier this morning to present the project. So I will turn it over to Brett, and he can walk through the 30% concept plans and then answer any questions you might have.
Well, Councilmember, board members, thank you very much for letting me make this presentation. I know it says 36 slides, we're not actually going to go through 36. These first couple, I'm going to take a little bit of time on it, the rest of them are really just images. So this is just a site location. It's on the west side of the new ball stadium. Next slide. This is the footprint of the transit facility. So the buses will come in on, well, I'm sorry, north is to the north, straight up. Sycamore is to the right. Burton, Oak, and Texas. So the buses will come in on Burton, come north through the facility, head back to Sycamore, and either go north to Douglas or south to Maple. We've got specific pedestrian crossings that'll be in front of buses, so we've really thought a lot about safety for the users. In the upper northwest corner, there is a generator there. There's also some light maintenance, so changing light bulbs or windshield wipers, that's that kind of work. Then we've got some bike lockers underneath the ramp, and I've got some other better images for you. On the east side are the office spaces, and I'd like to go to the next slide and we'll kind of walk through those. So now north is to the left of the screen. So we've got our 2 elevator banks and stairway to go up into the parking garage. The next section in the blue is the lobby. Then you've got this yellow area on the west side. That is the security office. They have windows into the lobby as well as into the platform. Then coming straight to the right of that, you have Wichita Transit ticketing and intercity bus ticketing, and their office spaces behind those. The area to the east in the green, that is workspace and their private restrooms for them. In the on the far right is the MEP in the blue. right there, thank you. And then just comes down, that is the public restrooms for the users of the facility. And then we have a pedestrian underpass, and I've got some other slides, I'll show you that. Next slide. And I promise this is the last time I get into a lot of detail, and then we'll head to fun. So the big area in green, that's for Wichita Transit operations. We have our IT room in the northwest corner there. And then on the south end of this part of the building is for the bus drivers, it's their break room and their restrooms. And then we have bike and scooter storages along the west side of that facility, as well as the staircase that will go up to the parking garage. This is the first floor of the parking garage. The ramp is on the west side coming up. The area in pink, we will have electric charging stations. I don't have a number for you yet. We'll be working with industry standards for when we open it up, but we are planning on putting conduit in so we can expand that in the future. Next slide. So this is, now we're just getting into the renderings. So this is looking at the northeast corner. You'd be on the northeast corner of Texas and Sycamore. We will have some pedestrian improvements at that intersection. That's where the Delano entrance is to the River City Baseball Stadium. So that's where we want that connection. And we're going to kind of walk around to the north. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. This fine, this is right. So this is the same image, but it's a little higher view, just showing you how the transit operations tie into the parking garage. Okay, so now we're onto the north side. This is Texas. You're looking south through the facility. This is where the buses will be coming out. Next slide. This is the northwest corner. Staircase for the parking garage, so that those that are parking in the parking garage can come down the staircase and walk up Oak Street up to Douglas and into the Delano neighborhood area. So they don't have to walk over to Sycamore. So this is along the east side of the facility, kind of showing you a few. The towers would have masonry and glass towers for the staircase. It'd be a brick veneer along the east side of the facility. We have these panels, and I've got some other images of those that we'll show you here in a minute. So this is a image of the lobby. It's really kind of what we want to be the showcase corner. Up on top, you can see some artwork up on the top. That's just a placeholder. We don't know what that is today. We're also considering some artwork on that south wall. That's the one big wall we have in the lobby. So we think there'll be something there as well. We don't know what that is today. That will be coming. So this is kind of looking along the east side of the facility where we have all of our offices. We have the underpass right there. And we can go to the next slide. So this is more of a close-up of the underpass. Those walls are angled in at a 76 degree. It is 16 feet wide, 10 feet tall. We show it in blue with some light in there. That is another aesthetic element. We don't know what it is today. We do know that it will be, lighting will definitely be an element of it. It could be some different materials for the walls. The artists are still going to be working through that. Next slide. So this is showing you kind of the south end of the facility. We think there's some art elements that can be provided there as well, and we're still working through what that could be. So now you're looking at the south end, looking north. So this is Burton. This is where the buses will be coming in. Next slide. And this is showing you the ramp to get up to the first level of the parking garage and what that's going to look like. And you've got Oak Street on the left side of the ramp there. This is another image of the west side of the facility, kind of looking up Oak Street and what that could look like. And then this is from the resident side. You see a little bit of opening there. I'm going to show you what that is here in a minute. It actually gets into the long storage parking for bike storage. So now we're looking at the platform. To the left is the lobby, then you have the security offices, then you have the ticketing agencies, and then those machines. That's 24-hour ticketing for Wichita Transit. We'll have some benches all along the platforms, and you can see the underpass as well. Yeah, go ahead and go back. Yeah, so here's just another image of that. We think there's some opportunities for some aesthetics on the columns, but we're not sure what that would be. And this is underneath the ramp going up to the first floor. Those boxes in the blue are long-term bike lockers that they can lock their bikes up in. And then along the south wall there is where they can hang them up and they can lock them up to that as well. This is what it would look like at night. And with that, I'm ready for any questions.
Got two. One's kind of expanded. The EV, electrical vehicle capacity. We've got some in there, we're planning some in there for, I guess, for public usage at a charge per hour, I suppose.
Yes.
What about for the transit vehicles themselves? Are we expecting all the charging to take place at the bus garage or what?
No, we are gonna have some bus routes, right?
We currently do all of our charging at our facility. The facility is already set up to do bus charging, so all of our buses, at least for the foreseeable future, for the next 5 or 6 years, the number of buses we have, those will all be charged at our place. That facility is set up to be the western terminus for the Q line. So the people coming in that are gonna be maybe they can be going to Century 2, they can be going to Intrust, they can be just going up into Old Town, could be going downtown just to do things downtown. They park there, they'll come down, so the Q line will always circulate through that facility